Welcome to Everything Life Coaching. I'm John Kim.
And I'm Noelle Cordeau. We are the founders of Lumia.
And we're super passionate about all things coaching, and we want to share what we've learned from over a decade of coaching and training thousands of life coaches.
Let's dive into the science and magic of coaching.
On today's episode, Not Your Mama's Life Coach, we're going to talk about niches that smash the status quo. Noelle,
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just a light little topic for our time together. I'm actually really excited to get into this one because it got me thinking all about our Lumia coaches. And I thought that we wouldn't be able to talk about what smashes the status quo before we got into, what is the status quo?
First, can I just say real quick, our mamas, or maybe my mama, didn't have a life coach or a therapist, and I wonder how different she would have been when I was growing up if both my parents had life coaches.
Yeah. Mom, if you're listening, go to therapy.
Yeah.
Therapy for my mother. If you know my mother, send her to therapy. It'll be great. I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think that that's a beautiful way to kind of like frame this conversation.
Mhm.
Is a really good friend of mine. It was before my first marriage, and I was having a hard time with my folks. And one of my friend's moms sat with me at her kitchen table and said, every generation reaches their limitation.
Mhm.
And the things that you like about yourself, your parents gave you, and they did the best they could.
Right. Right.
And that always stuck with me as foundational.
I also don't know. I know we're all like, oh, if our parents were different or if they had emotional intelligence or tools, and then who would I be? I don't know. Would we be that different? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it is, if it would be a significant jump. I think more of my change came from my own life and all the struggles and that what I had to go through, which have nothing to do with my parents. I think they would have set me up better, and I think there would have been some difference, of course, with my relationship with self. I think I would believe in myself more, but I don't know if it would be this drastic. Like, I would be a completely different person. My life would be different had my parents had tools.
Yeah. And the older I get, the more I'm realizing that I'm still the 8-year-old version of me,
Yeah.
just with a little bit different lens.
You just pay taxes now. That's all.
I pay tax. Well, sometimes
Yeah.
I pay taxes. I pay taxes. No, but speaking of my 8-year-old self, I was a kid that I distinctly remember. Sports were very confusing and sad and scary and
Mm,
traumatizing for me. And I remember
mm.
playing little league and doing ballet in the outfield and got in trouble because that's obviously
Oh,
not what I was supposed to be doing. But the part of me that kind of looked at the world and was like, this is weird. I think I want to do something else,
yeah.
was always present since I was a little kid.
That visual is so powerful. You in the outfield, and I see you dressed up, in a baseball uniform, but you're doing ballet.
Totally.
There's so
Just,
much that says about you. I mean, I think it's sweet and fun, but also kind of sad, that happening.
well, I mean, and I think that that's characteristic of who I am today.
Hmm.
I do
Hmm.
ballet in the outfield all the
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I'm the most grateful for in my life is whether it was my parents or my upbringing, people who were in my life, that over the years I developed an ability to look at all of the shoulds that
Hmm.
society puts on us and
Hmm.
say, I have questions about all of these shoulds. And as I work with clients and I work with training coaches, one of the things that I observe is that all of the ways that we think we're supposed to be
Hmm.
carry such heavy shame that they keep people stuck
Yeah.
from exploring things in life that they really want to do. And such a huge part of coaching is helping people overcome those barriers. What were some things that or ideas that you had about the world and how you were supposed to be that kept you stuck?
I think just growing up in a Korean American household, it was about academics, and
Mm.
maybe with you being on the East Coast, I think East Coast academia is more valued, or more
Mm.
definitely more so than LA. LA, it's like because I know, because Vanessa's from New York, my partner, and everyone, it's all, what school did you go to? And, like
Yeah.
Boston and all the Ivy League schools and the PhDs and all that. That seems to be a big deal there. Here, it's like, it was never that big of a deal. But being Korean, as a young kid, it was always my dad throwing books at me. You have to get straight A's. That's how you're going to succeed. Be
Wow.
a doctor or a lawyer. That was drilled into my
Sure.
head. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
uh,
I think school East Coast, yeah, for sure. It's a little bit more like that. But I grew up in like a tiny beach town
hmm
where some people, we're very focused on academics and where you went to college, yes, but other folks, like my neighbors down the street ran a photography studio, or people
mm,
were fishermen or worked at the
hmm
bar, and so I kind of saw a different slice of life. But that was something, especially in my younger years, was getting good grades was something.
hmm
And I'm a smart person, but I wasn't really great at traditional learning in a lot of ways. It was either like straight A's or F's, and I know I
mm.
baffled my parents, and for a really long time I didn't think I was smart.
Wait,
Um,
based on when would you get the A's, when would you get the F's? Based on what you learned, and how interested you were in that, or no?
or just what my brain was able to do.
No.
So like I flip letters and words around. That's how my brain works. And so I, as an adult, know that I taught myself, once I understood what words meant, I was able to put them in the right order and read. But
Well, you mean like, because I'm dyslexic. You mean like
yeah,
that? Okay, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I was never formally diagnosed, but
yeah,
like that's how my brain works, right?
yeah. Me too.
Um, and so yeah, so it was really, so spelling. Like I was a great reader, but I couldn't spell, and
Me
I've
too.
never been able to figure out algebra
Yeah.
or geometry,
No.
like shapes and letters and how does this all work?
Yeah.
No clue.
Yeah.
Like, and it wasn't for a lack of wanting, but that was an idea that I had of myself. Oh, I'm not smart because I
hmm
couldn't do these things,
hmm
that set me up with this thing that I eventually had to overcome, as an adult.
mm
Um, for me, I think, as growing up in a beach town, my family of origin, how I looked was very, very much a priority. That was one of the rules that was handed down, was like being thin
hmm
was
hmm
huge, and
Sure.
being conventionally attractive
Wait,
was.
even in the little beach town, was
Mhm.
that was a lot of people focused on that. That was pressure that came with that area.
Absolutely.
Oh,
And
I
I
didn't know
mean,
that.
it came from my family.
Right.
My mom's family, Italian,
Mm,
and I mean, I remember that being, part of the narrative. I remember one of my aunts saying to me that my grandma used to restrict food because because she wanted thin daughters. And
mm,
so it was just something that was like very part of the narrative growing up. And so that's something that really showed up for me. Heteronormativity. Like I've been blown away. In 2023, I remember seeing a news headline that a young woman wasn't allowed into her prom because she wanted to wear a pantsuit, and I was
mm.
like, are we really still stuck on like dresses?
Right. Right.
Like, and just even thinking about like life markers, like school dances, you
Yeah.
know, proms, like your first coupling. Like for me, that was all very heteronormative.
One of
And
the things for me was not being white.
mm,
That was huge. And not only not being white, it would have been easier if we were in an Asian community, but we lived in a place where it was all just Caucasian, and so being the only Asian family on the entire block, yeah, I didn't want. I was embarrassed of being Korean. I was embarrassed of what we ate. I was embarrassed of everything, and so I desperately wanted to be white,
wow.
so bad to fit in. I remember that as a kid, and of course that faded. And I love that now. It's a lot less like that. But in the '80s, it was very like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It was. And you know, these are the things that, as we're coaches and we're thinking about our clients, these are the hangups that we all carry with us into adulthood.
Right.
Another one for me was, get married. That was something like that my
Mm,
mom has actually directly said, like, I just want to see my daughters married.
mm.
So that was a huge one.
You got
Um,
married in your 20s, right?
I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got married in my 20s. I got divorced in my 20s. I got married again in my 30s.
Hmm.
Still married. And just a huge family value. Same thing with having kids. I don't have kids. I'm not going to have kids.
Right.
So that's something for me that I had to really grieve. But you surprised me.
I, su-
Logan.
I surprised myself.
Uh,
Uh, but if I waited a year, I don't think I would have had a kid. It wasn't planned, kind of, and I didn't really see it in my future. So yeah, it wasn't something that it didn't have a lot of weight as far as what I defined as far as a meaningful life.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, now
And
it does,
and
but before, no.
yeah. In my first marriage, that was a very heavy focus. Like our whole life was oriented around like
Mm,
when we're gonna have kids. And before I got
hmm.
divorced, we were building a big house, and like I really grieved the idea of not being a mother.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad. Like, I am so glad that I never became one, because I think that I really liked the idea. But if I'm actually being really honest about, who I am as a person,
Hmm.
sure, I would make the sacrifice. I'm a very caring, smart, and competent human, but I don't know that I would actually be the best mom.
Yeah, I mean, definitely at 50, I'm a lot more patient and I can be a better dad. But in my 20s and 30s, no way. I mean, I would have been horrible. I would have not been present. I would have been, yeah, I would have been a really, really bad dad, I think.
And I think that's okay for people to say. And
Yeah.
in these conversations, especially around parenthood, these are what our clients are dealing with,
Hmm.
whether they have kids or don't have kids. I know so many moms that are like, I hate this and I want out of every single facet of my existence. And
Yeah.
it's like taboo to say that
Yeah.
out loud.
Yeah. I was in a men's circle and I said, I don't like parenting. And everyone's like, "What?" And I said, I love Logan. I mean, she means the world to me now, but I don't like parenting." And there was this silence. I felt the judgment. And
Yeah.
then a couple hours later, one of the dudes texted me and said, "Dude, I don't like it either, and I can't believe you said that." And I was like, "Yeah, I at 50 feel like I have some freedom now. I've worked really hard. I'm like here, and then having a child anchors you down. Your day to day changes. I don't like it." And he related with me, but he's like, "Yeah, but you're not supposed to say that." I was like, "I know, that's why I said it."
That's the point. That's the exact inflection point, is like, what's
Yeah.
the stuff we're not supposed to say out loud? I took an intake call with a client that I didn't end up working with, but this person wanted to make a career change. And what was holding this person back was what their mother, father, siblings would think
Mm,
of
right.
abandoning, a stable career path.
Yeah.
And I think everybody I know who's ever become a life coach has gone through that, where everybody's like, "What are you doing?" And
Yeah.
it's like, no, it's
Yeah.
actually a very fulfilling career.
Speaking of mothers, I've had 6 motorcycles, and my parents have always been against motorcycles, like many are, and I get it, they can be dangerous. And so even now, she said, "I'll give you 10 grand if you sell your motorcycle." And I said, "No, no." And I was thinking, and this is what I tell my clients, it by me riding my motorcycle because it still produces joy for me, I'm giving back my mom's fear to her. So I'm carrying something. I'm refusing to carry something that I don't. That's not mine to own, right?
Yeah.
Because they become pebbles in your shoe. And if I was to take the 10 grand and sell my motorcycle, then now I'm carrying my mom's fear, right? So
Yeah.
now I'm living her life, not mine. And so yeah, there's a lot of people who make decisions, a lot of people afraid to be coaches because of other people's, you know, insecurities, fears, judgment on what coaching is, what it isn't, and all that.
Yeah. And well, this is the perfect point to swing over to coaching and coaches who are not only smashing the status quo, but carving out their own space in the
Hmm.
world
Hmm.
and helping people tackle these exact conversations because undercover like uncovering all of the things that our clients think that they should do and then really getting in there with their relationship with those things and how to overcome them is smack in the middle of our work as coaches.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the list of all the things that we came up with, and I thought of a coaching question that I ask my clients. Um, I ask my clients what they would be doing differently if both their parents were dead.
Mm. Okay, right. So there's no influence there.
There's
Sure.
no influence there.
Yeah.
And it's a totally morbid question. And I ask it in a way to get folks to think about because when I ask that question, the response that I usually get from people is like, whoa, freedom. And
Yeah.
how sad that there's that waiting game
Yeah.
before you can be who you want to be, live out your life, do what you want to do. And I see this all the time in the work that I do, especially around sexuality, non-traditional relationships, just the amount of wasted time and negation of
Hmm.
what you want to do with your precious days on this earth is just astounding and heartbreaking.
Yeah, that is a really interesting question. I haven't heard that before. But it's not just parents, but yeah, anyone that has pull over your decisions. It could be
Yeah.
friends, but yeah, if they're not in your life, they're not around. Um, how would that change you? What decisions would you make? Yeah.
What decisions would you make? Yeah. It's a powerful question. So
Hmm.
let's dive into the coaches that we see in the world who are actually out there working with folks who are doing things differently. The first thing that came to mind for me is folks who are neurodivergent coaches
Hmm.
because our brains are so intense. And for folks who are neurodivergent or have a different way of seeing and existing in the world is like
Yeah.
literally not built for you.
Yeah.
And so coaches working in this space, this is a huge business. It's really booming right now. And I see it taking place in two places, both like working with clients. So like somebody who is an ADHD coach will work with
Hmm.
somebody who has ADHD to help them understand the world, how to exist in it, how to move through it. And I'm also seeing it in corporations where corporations are hiring
Hmm.
coaches to come in and work with managers on how to set up inclusive environments for people who are neurodiverse because the value of a workforce with diverse brains is understood. And that's really cool to see.
What about the educational piece? Meaning, what is that? How do you know if you are? What are the stereotypes and all of that stuff?
Oh, yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that's where this niche is really expanding. I know folks who are working with parents,
Hmm.
working with kids when they first get the diagnosis, helping them transition from high school to college, working with adults who are like, oh my God, this is who I am. Now my whole life finally makes sense to me.
Hmm.
And I can start navigating the world, in a different way. Um, yeah, and I think the navigating the world in a different way is kind of at the center of all of this work. I've seen a huge boom in body acceptance coaches. Have you seen
Right.
that
Right.
in your travels?
Yeah, I think body acceptance. I mean, it's not a new thing, but I think um, you know what? Actually, that yes, I've seen, but you know what's emerging now is being self-partnered.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because, and I'm saying this because my whole single on purpose book, uh, the idea that you have to be with someone to have value, or like you
Yes.
said, marriage, kids, picket fence,
Yeah.
all that is fading, and now people are more okay being single and finding joy in not partnership, but in other things in life. Miley Cyrus has that song, "I Could Buy My Own Flowers." I don't know what it's called, but it's become like huge, and so it's all about connecting to self more than holding on to someone's leg or
Absolutely.
getting the
Yeah,
ring.
100%. And the demographics of our country show it. I think um 21% of folks out there are single on purpose. And
Hmm.
so the
Hmm.
way that I heard about this really recently, this week, yesterday, in fact, was a conversation looking at coaching within organizations talking about benefits. And
Mm,
somebody was saying, hey, we're not accounting for this whole population of people that experiences life markers differently from an employee benefits perspective. And so
mm,
catering to this specific population, you're right, is a huge area that's like totally growing. I see body acceptance a lot in the work that we do, or that I do with colonized mind, which is like really
hmm.
looking at like, well, what did the world say you were supposed to be, and how do you overcome it? And I think that really ties into the idea of being solo, of like I get to
Mm,
determine what my worth is in every single direction, and I don't
yeah.
need to be under the weight of standards to tell me at what point I will be acceptable, right?
It's sad that this is fairly new
I
because
know.
it makes me think of the world that our parents grew up in and all of the pressures and um, yeah, this was their living in the ant farm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So shouting out Lumia coaches, Joe Portia. She's doing
Hmm.
really great work
Hmm.
in female sexuality and empowerment. She looks at at your relational life, your relational freedom, your body.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's another boom happening. We've talked about this a lot recently with friendship coaches,
Mm,
and and there's a legit epidemic of loneliness in our society. So where the status quo is like, oh no, put all your eggs in the basket of being partnered, friendship coaching is looking at and saying, well, hey, what does it take to help people build a whole community out there?
mm, hmm.
um, have you ever had people wanting friendships come up? I mean, I imagine this is taking place with a lot of your single work,
You
of
mean people wanting
like
what?
more friendships, more community, the like
Oh,
really
yeah.
looking for
Yeah, yeah,
relation.
yeah. Yeah. So instead of, swiping and just, being desperate to find, quote unquote, their one, instead putting that energy into community, into friendships, into themselves, taking themselves out to, massages, dates, retreats, all of that stuff. I mean, that's the way to do it. What's the alternative? Just
I know.
desperately look for someone and pause your eyes?
Well, and I think a lot of people do that, honestly.
No,
And
they do.
so,
The most people do.
like that is legit the alternative. And the coaches that are out there doing this work are waving the flag for people, saying like, you don't have to live this way.
Yeah.
Um, Denise Waters is one of our coaches. She has a
Mm,
practice that's focused on connection coaching.
mhm,
And then another one of our coaches, Wilderness Dawn, does this work through a really unique lens, which I like. It's through the work of nonviolent communication, which is helping
mm.
people learn how to speak up, learn how to listen, and learn how to set boundaries is like really foundational for engaging with people in a way that truly serves, you.
I wish my name was Wilderness. What a cool name. I've never
Isn't that
heard
a cool
anyone.
name?
Oh my gosh, Wilderness? That's so awesome. Anyway,
Baby number two, John. There you
no,
go.
no, no, no. One and done. I've already cut things. It's over. It's good.
we
I'm
we
safe.
are on cue today because next up is sexuality coaching. So this is a huge space. So whether we're talking
This is
about
exploding for sure.
kids,
Yeah,
pregnancy, having them, not having them,
yeah.
figuring out, some people like honestly figuring out how to have sex as an adult, learning about sex, different communities that you could be a part of, different, like it could be
Non-monogamy. That's
non-monogamy,
It's
kink.
become huge. Yeah.
It can be super overwhelming. I mean, non-monogamy powers a lot of my own practice, and the thing is not the thing. It's like folks come in for like, I want to explore this, and we end up working on obviously like their whole life. But that's a
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
part of it. Is
Yeah.
when, in my experience with clients, when people really want to live a certain way and they feel like the pressures of society are saying like, if you do that, you're going to be shamed,
Mm,
the weight of that causes such cognitive dissonance. It causes
Mhm.
such stuckness. It causes such pain. And the reason that I do the work that I do is because to me, that's somebody wasting their time. And I don't want that for anyone. That's all we have
Yeah.
is our time. So we have a lot of coaches who do this work. Maria Two Straps, she works with you
Yes.
on
I was gonna
something.
just shout I was gonna say, speaking of, a shout out to coaches. Yeah, she's been doing it, and, she's very potent, and, not only is she, coaching, but the way that she lives her life and the things that she does outside of work is also all related. So she's very thorough in her exploration of all of that, educating herself and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And she is a really robust practice
Hmm.
in kink, helping people with like
Right.
beginner's kink of like, you want to
Right.
explore this world. What's it like? Come on in.
Rena.
Rena,
Yeah.
yep, she does sexual empowerment for
Hmm.
women. Libby Sinback
Mm,
is non-monogamy. She's awesome. Her podcast is phenomenal. And Justin Citron, one of the instructors of our
mm,
program, he focuses on a really specific area of sexuality of puppies, being a pup, and has created this beautiful community for men to come in and be a part of and have game nights and have coaching and
mm.
explore,
Yeah.
a really specific facet of the world.
It's amazing. It's amazing, and also, it's telling of all the different things that you can do as a coach, and it just keeps expanding. And going back to niches, and smashing uh, what you think coaches are supposed to do, and you creating your own road interest, um, is happening every day.
And it doesn't have to be like niche based like kink or non-monogamy. Like Paul Chamberlain works with shame, like just like straight
Right.
up,
Yeah.
shame. And I think I see folks doing this in the space of career coaching as well, because
Hmm.
outside of your personal life, your sexuality for adults, this is one of the big areas where folks have, a ton of challenge. And something that I love seeing is when people get really, really, really specific with it. There's two people I'm thinking of. Kat Simmons is one of our
Mm.
coaches.
Hmm.
She's in the UK, and she is really specifically a career transition coach for nonprofit and humanitarian workers
Wow.
to make career shifts without overwhelm. And I was like, that is so brilliant, because anyone who fits that description is going to recognize themselves
Yeah.
in what she's doing. And then Jim's Jim's practice is Zen laundry coaching, and he is
Mm.
coaching for leaders who are experiencing spiritual crisis.
Oh, I love that. I
Right?
love the term Zen laundry. That's
Me
really interesting.
too.
Yeah.
Just to wash it all out, and
Yeah.
then that takes us into like all the stuff that nobody wants to talk about, like drugs,
Mhm.
psychedelics, finances, organization, down through like creativity. One of our coaches, Lee McGraw Levitt, does creativity coaching, and Sharon Calderon does play coaching for adults,
Mm.
which I love.
Yeah. We all need more play for sure.
We do. We do. Well, this was a fun conversation. What are you going to do today to smash the status quo in your own life?
I'm going to I have a workbook coming out, and so I've been busy doing
Cool.
something different. So I'm speaking of coaches and catalysts, I'm giving kits. My publisher are mailing out kits to people who want to run their own little home churches and coffee shops and stuff, all about
Cool.
singlehood. So I'm just again playing with my Legos, trying to promote in a different way. And this one's going to be more like hitting the street marketing.
I love that.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about the work that I do in my own coaching practice, because I only work with like four people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that a lot of people could benefit from the methodology that I use
Mm.
in overcoming these exact things like sex,
Yeah.
drugs, what your parents think, career. And so I wanted to put together kind of like a workbook, but just like a workbook, a
Yeah.
primer for folks. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
something I'm playing around with too.
I love it. As we end, I want to remind you, whether you're a coach or not, use your own life as the experiment, and if you think, okay, I'm just going to get information out of this, like what I'm doing is also terrifying, right? Giving kids to random people all over the world to run their own little thing. But the reason I do it is because after I'm done, instead of seeing it as a success or failure, I'm going to learn so much. There's going to be so much data from it that that's going to help other authors, and I could share that. And so then you kind of get out of your own way and your own fears. So that's one way to kind of lean into something that may scare you.
I love that. I'm going to use that. What can I learn about spreading radical thought in the world?
Yeah, absolutely. What can you learn?
Cool. Well, thank you for the conversation.
Thank
and
you.
I will see you next time.
Yeah, be well, everyone. Thanks for listening to Everything Life Coaching. If you're feeling the draw to become a coach, head to lumiacoaching.com/everything. Explore a new career that brings fulfillment, gives you a true sense of purpose, and a bold community to do it with.
Lumia is ready to equip you with the tools, training, and community you will need to reach your goals. If you're ready to build a unique coaching business on your own terms while making an impact on the world at large, Lumia is the next bold step in your coaching journey. That's lumiacoaching.com/everything.
And hey, if you're waiting for a sign, this is it.